Hi, and welcome to Mrs. PM Reads. Today we are continuing in our story, Shoeless Joe by W. P. Kinsella. We will be in the new part, brand new part 4. So this will be section 1. And in our last video, Ray and Jerry were in the car heading home to Iowa. Jerry's going with him. And they just happened upon this baseball player hitchhiker who they offered a ride. And it was Archie Graham. I don't know how that can be. It's a novel, it's a fantasy because Archie Graham has passed away and has been so for a few years. But right now, he's in the truck car with them. So let's see how that goes. Oh, I can't sit like this. Okay. I look at Archie and wonder how he feels. What kind of crisscrossing the dimensions of time have done to land him here, to stand on a curving highway by a lake outside Chisholm, Minnesota, at the very moment we come driving by? Or could this all be my imagination? Is Archie Graham really just a kid looking for a place to play baseball in the Midwest? Archie Graham, is it? Says Jerry. We look at each other with secretive expressions of childhood. We know something he doesn't know, expressions. Yes, sir, says the boy. Haven't we seen you before? Asks Jerry. No, sir, I think not. You from around here? Jerry persists. There is a long, long pause. Looking through the rearview mirror, I try to frame the expression on his face. My family hails from North Carolina, he says finally. His lips curve in a line as if he has chosen his words carefully. I shake my head ever so slightly at Jerry as an indication that he should stop asking questions. He changes the subject to the weather and current baseball standings, which I have to help him out with. I realize, talking with Archie Graham as the miles roll by, that there are gaps in his life, like boards pulled off an outfield fence by anxious fans. And I come to believe he has been created by the strength of my dreams, by the depth of my belief in what has been happening. The young Archie Graham is like a doll Jerry and I have conjured up to satisfy our desire that fantasy turn into truth. We are heading for Iowa, but slowly, I say. We're stopping in Minneapolis for a Twins game and then home. Do you want to come with us? But before he can answer, Jerry says, you must be a fan of the game. I stare at him as the words hang in the air like skywriting. Jerry's face remains impassive. I glance back at Archie, who has his slim hands clasped together and is staring at the back of Jerry's head. He seems unperturbed. Is Jerry playing cat and mouse with me? Does he somehow know what I know? Wherever you're going is fine, says Archie. I'm not in a rush, and I've got money to pay my own way. We drive on to Minneapolis. We are all relaxed at the game, cheering the Twins to an easy win, chanting, Bombo, Bombo, Bombo. Each time the Twins' right fielder, Bombo Rivera, is announced. He is a good young player, but not great. It is his name that intoxicates the crowd. Nicknames appear to be a thing of the past. I say to Jerry, look around the leagues. They're full of Daves and Als and Dons and Barrys. There's a simple explanation, says Jerry. Baseball has become a business for the players as well as the owners. Guys who make $1 million a year don't even want to be called by their first names. They want to be called sir. Ooh, well, it wouldn't surprise me if one of these years some free agent with a .280 batting average gets a clause in his contract specifying that he has to be announced as Mr. Big Star every time he comes to bat. It was all right for a boy who earned $5,000 playing baseball and was an apprentice plumber in the off season to be called Snuffy or Pee-wee or Slats. But if you spend all your non-playing time administering your 15 dry cleaning franchises, your apartment complexes, or your bank, you don't want to be known as no neck to the comptroller. What do you think? I say to Archie. I don't know, he says. You guys are a lot older than me. Do you have a nickname? Asks Jerry. A leading question if I ever heard one. Not yet, says Moonlight Graham. You have to do something strange or have an unusual off-season occupation. Nicknames are funny. They just land on you. Like waking up one morning with a tattoo. You don't know how you got it, but you know it's going to be with you forever. Would you like one? Says Jerry. You a supplier? Says the kid. He ripped off the corner of one of the baseball programs and is busy chewing it into a spitball. I make suggestions, says Salinger. There's no obligation. Let's see. How about Lefty? I throw right, says the kid. Babe, suggests Salinger. Been used, says the hitchhiker. I have an idea, I say. I am sprawled on one of the beds in the Concho Shell Motel in Bloomington, not far from the baseball stadium. Archie sits in a chair facing the television, which picks up only one shadowy channel. Salinger is pacing the room. Let's go to the ballpark. They look at me without comment. Have either of you spent any time in an empty ballpark? There's something both eerie and holy about it. How would we get in? Says the kid. Leave that to us old people, I say. Salinger already has the door open and is switching off the lights. A ballpark at night is more like a church than a church, I say, as I stop the Datsun on the gravel of the parking lot and turn off the motor and lights. Gravels rearrange themselves under the weight of the car, making sounds like snapping fingers. Our breath becomes very loud. We might be parked on a country road, the only sound that of a faraway car hissing along a freeway. Above, an airplane blinks as it drifts toward the nearby Minneapolis International Airport. Stealthily, we open the doors and step out. I look straight up at the ink blue sky. Its edges are bathed golden by the city lights. But with my neck bent back, neck bones cracking in protest, I can see the stars bubbling unspoiled. We stand silent. Salinger, too, stares at the sky. I haven't done this for years, he whispers, massaging the back of his neck, and I live in the country. You have to make time, even for something as universal as staring at the stars. The moon hangs over the ballpark like a softly glowing peach. Full moon, I say, smiling wryly. Perhaps that's why we're doing what we're doing. They claim that a lot of strangeness goes on during the nights of the full moon. The moon turns Salinger's glasses silver. I cannot see his eyes. Cops, taxi drivers, and cocktail waitresses will tell you about the full moon. A time when the most docile little wino runs amok, tossing off twice his weight in blue uniforms. When college students scream through cities writing on walls. When sedate businessmen drink until they vomit on linen tablecloths. When wives shoot husbands and husbands shoot wives. When little old ladies report lost cats and strange men under their beds. From dark doorways, priests hiss at hookers when the moon is full, and housewives have fearsome attacks of manic energy and shred their underclothes in the blender. That's interesting. The stadium is totally dark. The silver little light poles, like tall, polished trees, stand out against the dark, their tops festooned with hundreds of identical eyes. Behind us, Archie Graham picks up and lays down his cleats softly in order to make as little noise as possible. When the moonlight illuminates his face, I can see that it is covered with question marks. The small door marked passes is located 50 yards to the right field side of the main entrance. When I walked by it earlier in the evening, I noted that it was held closed by a Yale lock. I know what to do with Yale locks. I have seen enough police and private eye shows to know that one kick properly placed will do the trick. I wave Jerry off and take a short run at the door. What a fool I will feel like if it doesn't work. The flat of my foot hits hard right on the shiny outer portion of the lock, and the door gives with a tearing sound and a dull thud like a muffled gunshot. The kid winces as if I have hit him. Are you two guys all right? He asks, looking frantically around. There is a second bang as the door swings back against the inner wall. I reach out and silence it, and Salinger and I slip inside, scarcely more than shadows along the dark green wall. An empty ballpark at night must be like the inside of a pyramid. We are like archaeologists exploring new territory. We climb the steps and stare out over the field from behind home plate. Peanut shells crunch underfoot, and last night's waxy cups and hot dog wrappers brush against our ankles. We should have a radio, I say. Salinger looks at me quizzically. They're probably still playing on the West Coast. The darkness here is so smooth and soft and silent, it would be like having a feather comforter around our knees. We could huddle down, tune into the game very softly, so as not to disturb the ghosts of this park, and sit and listen. And once in a while, we could turn up the volume when a ball is whacked sharply and the crowd roars. Or better still, we could sneak in here while the Twins are on a road trip and listen to the games, pretending they were home games and that the players, crowds, and everyone were here. We could bring our own drinks and peanuts. You could be accused of being possessed, says Salinger. There is a baseball devil. Anything taken too seriously becomes a devil. Do I take baseball too seriously? But I don't want to hear his answer or anyone's answer. What could be done to exorcise me? Would the ghost of Kennesaw Mountain Landis, white-maned, actually named for a mountain, appear with crossed baseball bats and stand over me as I lay pinioned to the pitcher's mound? Would he swat at baseballs that circled around my head like bumblebees? I raised my arms over the moon-silvered park like an Aztec priest. Once, as a child in Montana, I went with my father to a baseball game. I remember the soft drink cups beaded with condensation and a vendor in an orange hat tossing peanuts up into the stands like a pitcher, making a move to first. and is passing quarters from hand to hand down to the vendor, and my father cheering for the pitcher. I forget what teams were playing, but the pitcher's name was Tony. And he was stocky, short-haired, and looked like a taciturn cowboy with a square, dimpled chin and gimlet eyes. "Pour it on him, Tony," my father cheered. I took up the refrain, and soon others did too, our voices carrying in the thin Montana air. Half the crowd wore cowboy hats, I recall, and the parking lot was full of pickup trucks. "Pour it on him, Tony," we roared, and he tipped his cap to us as he walked off the field after pitching out of a jam. He won the game, and for years I looked for his name on some big league roster, but he disappeared, absorbed into the heart of America. One of the multitude who was not chosen. And I think of that ballpark, abandoned the last time I saw it, the fences collapsed, lying at eerie angles, the stands dark and weathered, occasionally visited on cool summer nights by voices from the past. For some reason, I recall the question at the bottom of the form sent by the Baseball Hall of Fame to everyone who has ever played organized ball. If you had it to do over again, would you play professional ball? The historian at Cooperstown, Clifford S. Cashline, said he couldn't recall even one ex-player answering no to the question. I wonder if any other profession can say the same. Annie and I were in Cooperstown once. We looked at Shoeless Joe Jackson's shoes, reposing under glass. How come a guy named Shoeless Joe had shoes? Annie wanted to know. That was years before I built my ballpark. I explained that though Joe's shoes were there, he was not and might never be. Archie, Graham, Salinger, and I tiptoed down the hollow concrete tunnel to the locker rooms. The lockers look cold as coffins. Silver locks with faces like clocks dangle from each door. The room smells of sweat and chlorine. We find the door labeled equipment, and I do my kicking number again. Our eyes are treated to rack upon rack of white ash bats, glowing like opaque jewels in the dark. We are exhilarated by the daring of our deeds. We feel excited but evil, like Perry Smith and Richard Hickok on a gold-mooned Kansas night exploring the dark recesses of the clutter farmhouse room by room. The equipment room smells of leather and varnished wood. We motion for Archie to hold out his arms, and we load him up with bats until he looks as if he's carrying an armful of firewood. I, too, gather an armful of bats. Salinger stuffs his pockets with balls, holds his left arm like a broken wing, fills the crook, runs balls down to his wrist, and grips two in his palm. Our silent accomplice follows us, his eyes large. He is afraid to be with us, but afraid to run. We make our way along the cold, reverberating corridors and emerge from the home team dugout on the first base side. And we're going to stop there. So we'll have to wait to find out what happens. Whew. They're pretty bold, aren't they? Those old men. All right, you guys. Hey, it's been a while since we're at a new part, or we just finished a part. Let me remind you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And when you do, you want to click the little bell button, and that will give you a notification every time a new video posts. Also, depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching it before September 30th, 2023, I'm doing a promotion for this book. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and you subscribe to the channel, you will be entered to win the Field of Dreams DVD. And, you know, with the magic of Amazon, it can be shipped directly to you after I order it. If you win. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, that date is before September 30th, 2023. All right, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will see you, and we'll find out what they're doing in that ballpark next time. Bye.